Welcome back to another video, guys, and today I'm working on this Porsche Macan, which has quite a serious engine fault. I've already had a look at it, so let me jump inside and tell you what I found. My friend Joe's asked me to take a look at this car because he sold this car from his used car dealership and it's come back under warranty because there is reports of a quite bad rattling noise coming from the engine, which at first I couldn't hear, because if I actually start this car, it's a Macan 3 litre S, by the way, so it sounds really cool. The engine sounds absolutely mint, and I was kind of scratching my head for a minute listening around and I couldn't hear any rattling noise whatsoever. But let me get this engine warm and we'll take a listen at how bad this rattle actually is. So you probably can't hear that right now. We've got quite a nasty rattle at 100 degrees oil temp. Let me pop the bonnet and I'll give you a closer listen. So of course I've already worked out what's going on here, but I'll just run you through the thought process I was going through when I first heard this noise. I was going, well, it's totally silent up until a certain temperature range. So maybe it might not be the timing chain. So I just thought I'd explore other options. I had my stethoscope out and I was listening. I'm listening to the vacuum pump at the back of the camshaft, high pressure fuel pumps, and the noise I heard most loudly was actually at the end of the intake camshaft. On the end of the intake camshaft you have a variable pulley with an oil control solenoid and an actuator on the outside. And now when I went into the car, I can control those actuators on the diagnostic tool. So I actually turned bank 1 intake camshaft actuator off and the noise dramatically reduced. So I thought maybe the actuator on the end of the camshaft is at fault. So I swapped them over. I swapped bank 1 with bank 2 to see if the fault would move across, and it didn't. We still had the same noise. So I next checked under the oil filler cap, and I had done this previously and I didn't spot anything wrong. But this time round, when I got my pick, I hooked onto the timing chain, and in fact right now it's the same thing. There's no slack in it at all. It's totally tight. But I caught it just at the right moment where obviously there was a bit of slack on top of the pulley and I could actually get the chain to come up by a considerable amount. And then I actually noticed the chain was touching this piece of cast aluminium inside the rocker cover. So that's a pretty strong indication that the chain is stretched. Now I've never replaced a chain on one of these 3 litre petrol Macan engines, so it's going to be a learning experience together, much like the BMW X5 video was. So let's pull it into the workshop and let's start stripping it apart. First, I'm going to have to get this Porsche Cayman out of the workshop before I can pull the Macan in. This car here I actually went right the way through on the Shifting Metal YouTube channel. We've done a lot of work on this car. I know you guys like your mechanical videos, so please go do check that one out. And you can actually also win this car and feel good competitions. It's really well sorted now, and it's quite a nice spec. And it's a 2.7, which I think is one of the best sounding Caymans out there. So there'll be a link in my description, an affiliate link. So if you are interested in buying some tickets on this one, which they are selling out fast on, go hit that link and buy yourself a couple of tickets. Okay, so I've got no real instruction manual or procedure on how I'm going to tackle this job, but I know I have to get down the front of this engine, obviously, because that is where the timing chain is. So I think I'm just going to take the front end off. So let's get all these upper panels off. We'll get the headlights out, because that's super simple. Let's not risk damaging those. Front bumper off, then we're going to have an intercooler, upper core support with the radiator and the fan pack. We'll get all that out of the way and hopefully we'll be looking just straight at the front of the engine and we'll have loads of room to play around and get this timing chain replaced. Right, that was the front bumper off. Not too shabby, but there still looks like quite a bit to come off. We've obviously got these big intercooler pipes, this massive upper core support, and we've got to get these headlights as well, because I can see that this core support goes underneath the headlights. These are only held in with 2 bolts, but there is the headlight washer system, so we'll have to disconnect that before we pop those out. And then yeah, I don't know what is the next step, but we'll just keep pulling things off until we can see the front of the engine. Looks like it last had a major service quite recently at Porsche, which is quite nice. Makes it even more surprising that we've got chain issues at this mileage, but it's not totally unheard of. Chains do stretch. Just like that, we've got the whole front end of the Macan off. There's a couple of ways you could have done it. You could have broken it all down bit by bit and taken it off. I've actually just opted to take the full shebang off. So in here we've got both intercoolers, we've got the fan pack, we've got the radiator. I did actually have to de-gas the AC system because we've got the AC condensers in there, and all of that shebang. So that came off in one big unit, which has given us loads of access to this front timing cover. So it still looks like we've got to remove quite a fair bit of stuff. Both these rocker covers have to come off. We've got high pressure fuel pumps on both sides. We've got the AOS system on there. These can be a bit of a faff, these rocker covers, to get off, but now I've got actually so much room, might make them a little easier. What have we got here? We've got water pump, we've got the auxiliary belt, we've got the main crank pulley to get off, and then this metal cover behind here is what we're trying to gain access to, because behind there is our stretched chain. So let me crack on and get all this stuff stripped off. Right, and there's one alternator out, and this here is absolutely caked in oil because the bottom corner here of the rocker cover has been leaking. But thankfully, because we are doing the full timing chain, we're going to have to replace these seals anyway, so a bit of a 2-for-1 repair. So the reason why I took that alternator out is because I needed to get this wiring loom out of the way, and most of it was the alternator. So we've got all this here, and then we've got one that just disappears back there into the back of the engine. So let's get this clip off like that, and now let's take it up in the air and follow it into the back of the engine here. Where do we go? We go up through there, down through here, we split off here, we go in there. It's going to be a bit of a faff to get this one back out, but it looks like we've got one going to the electric power steering module, and then we've got one going into what could be the crankshaft position sensor. So let's get those off. Just like that. All right, let's lower it down. That has given us much more room. I think I'm going to have to work around these ones here, only because I want to disconnect this pipe. It actually goes all the way underneath the inlet manifold, something that I don't want to entertain if I can. It'd be nice just to leave all that in situ. But what have we got remaining? Rocker covers that have high pressure fuel pumps on and coil packs and everything. They've got to come off. We've got all these pulleys that will have to come off. And I'm not going to bother taking this big crank pulley off just yet. What I want to do, you'll probably see there's a hole there. And just behind it is a slot down there. And that is part of the pin mechanism which locks this out. So when we've got the rocker covers on, we can spin the engine into the correct position to lock each bank out. Then we can slide our pin into the crankshaft, and that should be exactly where we need our timing to. So I think the next course of action is to get both of these rocker cover assemblies off. So first look at the valve train here, and this is what I could see inside through the oil filler cap. You'll notice that this bit of material here has been worn down flat, as has this bit here. So this is the noise we're hearing. We're hearing the chain clank away at this rocker cover housing, which you would be surprised at to begin with, because, oh, there you go, the slack's down here now. Very loosey-goosey. Alright, that's one side done. Let's get the other side stripped off. Same again on this side by the looks of it, not quite as bad, but you can see we've got a bit of rubbing there and on that one there, but everything else is looking pretty good. Okay, So we've got both of these rocker covers off now, and we can quite clearly see that this chain is stretched. Really surprising actually because of the mileage, but you know, sometimes chains just do stretch. It is the way it is. I mean, this is a nice, really nice thick chain as well. It's like a double row chain. This is the sort of chain you do want to see on an engine, but nothing lasts forever. So what we're going to do now is get this into the position we need to lock the engine out. So I've bought a kit. It looks like this hole in the crank pulley down here is going to have to rotate round to allow us to slot a pin through. And also you might be able to see there's a threaded bolt hole on each camshaft. So we need these to be totally flush so we can bolt our camshaft locking tool on top. I think once that's locked out and that's locked out and we know the crankshaft's locked out, I will just quickly see if cylinder 1, I think it's going to be cylinder 1, is at top dead center. And that'll be everything we need to know before we take this front timing cover off. To get the front timing cover off, we've got lots of pulleys to remove, and we've also got some big timing chain tensioners that need to come out. And once that's all removed, we'll pop this front cover off and we'll see to what extent this chain is actually stretched. So that side's locked out, this side's locked out, and the crank pulley's locked out. And to my surprise, they all went in absolutely spot on. Usually when chains are a bit stretched, you got kind of cams get out of sequence a little bit, but that one is kind of textbook. So next on the list is pop all these plastic covers off, buzz all the bolts out, and take the timing cover off. What a relief that we got that off without doing any damage, touch wood. We had a beader sealer along here holding it in, and there are dowels all the way up as well, and this just felt. You can feel how flexible it is. It's very soft, so I was quite worried about that, but that's in really good shape as well. It doesn't look like the chain has been slapping anywhere inside this cover, which is good. Some chains on some engines can actually rub through the entire timing chain cover, which can cause some dramas. But let's take a little look what we've got going on in here. So of course that was up like that, and we're gonna have to, when we put the cover back on, we're gonna have to support this somehow. So I'm probably gonna grab a bit of string or something, wrap it around there and tie it up here so we can get the timing chain cover on and then release it. Otherwise the timing chain cover won't go on, obviously, if it's sat like that. And that is what we have come here to replace. Obviously off the face of it, you're never going to know if it's stretched or not, so we'll compare it to the new one we've got. Yeah, it might feel a little bit stretched there. So you'll notice that we're not replacing this oil pump chain. Kind of two-part reason for that. One is they're not really under any tension, so there's not any real reason for them to stretch. Second to that is they are constantly bathed in oil, so they've got loads of fresh engine oil over them all the time, and they very, very rarely stretch. If you watch my BMW X5 timing chain video, you would have saw how stretched the chain was, but the oil pump chain was still absolutely perfect. So we're going to be leaving that. If we wanted to replace that, it is a full engine out and sump off job, obviously quite a bit more involved than what we're already doing. But let's get the rest of these gaskets off and timing chain guides and start plonking the new stuff back on. So they have used sealant in places to actually hold the gasket in situ whilst the timing chain cover goes on. So I think we're going to be doing the exact same thing. Looks like we've got a bit of sealant going through here holding this one on, same on this side, and there is no gasket across this bottom piece here. So we'll run a bead of a gasket maker around here, and actually we've got a little bit going through here between these two mating surfaces as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bits of sealant we've got to remember to put back on when we're putting that cover back on. So here's the replacement timing chain kit. We've gone for a Hepu brand of kit, and I have it on good authority that these guys manufacture the chain that was originally on this, genuine Porsche. So let's see if that does ring true. Of course, I can already see we've got a purple timing chain tensioner just as the one that came out of the car, and you'll see here you've got a genuine Porsche part number on it, but they've also gone over with a laser engraver to kind of almost blur that out. Almost like they don't want you to know that this is the original Porsche stuff. Let's take a little look at the timing chain guide. So what we've got going there, we've got made in Germany, and we've got JWIS stamped into it. So let's take a little look at the one that came out of the car. We've got made in Germany in the same place there, same casting marks. JWIS, JWIS. Thank you to whoever gave me that nice little tip. It would appear that that is the genuine Porsche item, but a fraction of the cost. That kit there is about 700 quid. From Porsche, you're looking at over £2,500. So a huge saving, and we're using really good quality components. Right. So here is the old chain compared to the new timing chain, and as you can see, they're both absolutely identical in length, which is kind of a bad thing, right? Because we thought the timing chain was stretched, and that's why we had all that slop as we saw earlier on in the video. Obviously not the case, something else has gone wrong. On closer inspection, it would appear that one or more of these VVT pulleys is failed or starting to fail, because you can see here these are what a good set of tooth looks like, but these ones are absolutely worn down to nothing, and that doesn't sound great. So you can hear that clunking, the teeth are worn. You can hear this one clunking, the teeth are worn, and this one has a slight bit of play in it and the teeth are worn. This one, however, no play, no worn teeth. I think likely one's failed, and just because of it all rattling around and wearing out, some other ones have followed suit. So let's get these pulleys changed over. We'll get these gasket surfaces cleaned up, and we can put the new chain on and hopefully just put it all back together. Even though I'm not replacing this one, I am just going to crack it off. So when we put the chain on, these pulleys then sit where they need to. I think the process I'm going to go for is get these on, get them hand tight, get the timing cover on with the tensioner in. Then once the tension's on the chain, which will set where the pulleys need to go, I can then go around and tighten them back up. So now, with that one cracked off, you can see that these aren't keywayed and they will just spin. The manual does say you need to support these collars here, but well, it is a free spinning collar, so I don't know what that's about, but we're going to do it anyway because that's what the manual says. Okay, before we chuck those new pulleys on, I just want to take these old ones apart just to see if there is anything going on in there, just for my own peace of mind that we have found a fault and we're on the right path. So this is bank 2 inlet pulley, sprocket, whatever, and this is bank 1, which was the noisiest of the two. So I'm going to crack this one open first and see what we find. So that there is just the little plastic bit which sits on top of the spring, just to give it something to sit on. Weirdly enough, these bolts don't actually look square with each other. So yeah, if you look, this can only go on one way. So if you line one bolt hole up, the other ones don't until you spin it to the right way. So there, yes, that's interesting. Okay, that's a bit weird, isn't it? So that is interesting. This one here doesn't have any play in it at all with the pin in there, but this one here, you can probably hear that, has absolutely loads of slot. It's like the detent that pin slots into is kind of wallowed out somehow. I'm not sure exactly what would cause that, but I'm glad we have found at least some difference between the two. And that might send us on the right path there. So let's get those new ones fitted and get it back together. Okay, so that's the top guides on here, on each bank. We've got this big horseshoe shaped one here and two ones either there. And it's almost, no, I'm not going to say what I'm going to say. I was going to say idiot proof, but this could still drastically go wrong. If we get something wrong here and we turn it over, it could be game over. But that being said, because this pulley is free floating and as is this, providing the teeth are correctly situated between each camshaft, the rest will sort itself out. As soon as you put a bit of tension on there, it will draw it all tight, and that should be all we have to do. So the next challenge we've got is actually this timing chain guide here, and as you can see, it just wants to fall down like that. When it's like this, you can't put this front cover on. Porsche do call for a very expensive tool you have to use. I think I'm going to opt not to use that expensive tool and tie a bit of string around it, and that will hold the timing chain guide up like this so we can get the front cover on. We'll cut the string, pull it through and chuck the tensioner in. I've also taken the time to clean up all the gasket surfaces and this front timing cover, and the issue I was getting with this timing chain cover is I was cleaning it and it was instantly rusting. And I thought, how bizarre is that? I wasn't very good in school, but I think this is actually made of magnesium. You tell me, does magnesium flash rust? I think it might, and that would explain why all the gasket surfaces where I had this like rubberized coating on, presumably that's to stop the flash rust of it, but why doesn't it happen on the outside? If you know, let me know in the comments, because I don't know. But these are genuine Porsche gaskets, so this is ready to go on. So there's our genuine Porsche tool that I've just removed from the engine, which was helping us hold the timing chain up as we put the front cover on. The tool they want you to use actually is pneumatic, and we would put air to it and it would simulate oil pressure on this timing chain tensioner, which would help us set the timing on the engine. However, I'm happy that the timing chain tensioner without any oil pressure is supplying enough tension for us to tighten these bolts up on the ends of the camshafts. So that'll be our next move now. I'll get the crank pulley on and we'll get everything tightened up. So I've done those up to 30 Newton meters, and now we have to do them an additional 40 degrees. So that was 40 degrees. If I was doing a wheel bolt to that sort of torque, that kind of would feel like well over 130 Newton meters, so they're definitely not going anywhere. So we'll do this up to 50 next. Spot on. Now 90 degrees. You can go back with these and it will measure where it was. Very clever. There we go. Slots back in. So next thing to do is we are going to pop all these timing tools off, and we'll spin the engine over and we'll refit them. And of course, if this pin slots back in here and those camshaft lockout tools bolt where they need to go as well, we know that the engine is happy and we can proceed to put the rocker covers on. Okay, that one's bolted down absolutely perfect. Let's try the other side now. Lovely. Lovely, and you'll see that when these come down, millimetre perfect. Okay, so that was the engine all spun over. Pin went in there lovely. These went back on absolutely perfect. So I'm just going to do that one more time for my own peace of mind, and then we'll carry on with those rocker covers. So I'm actually really impressed with this I guess it's going to be a cheap Chinese timing toolkit, but it seems to have come with everything that we need. So yeah, thanks to Cuntech for your timing tool. Top-notch quality gear. that's all the auxiliary stuff back on the engine now. I've done it a bit out of sequence, but now I am going to in fact put those rocker covers on. Using Porsche rocker cover gaskets. These are hundreds of pounds. If you want to do both sides and the 6 spark plug tubes, they are hundreds of pounds. If you do want a kit, message me on Instagram. I will supply you a kit for £100 posted while stocks last, because I'm sure they will go. But you can save yourself a bit of money there if you're tackling this job like I am. So let's brake clean these off, get them absolutely spotless, and we will get both rocker covers on. And just like that, it's all back together now. I've cleaned up all the oil leaks. Of course, we fixed those oil leaks when we put the new rocker cover gaskets on. This is the same engine in the Macan, Panamera and Cayenne, and also the V8 is very similar, so it's a very similar process for doing a timing chain, all those pulleys. But that's everything back together. Let's get the front end back on now. Okay, that's all the front end back together. We've got the intercoolers connected, all the radiator hoses, vacuum pipes and all sorts. I've topped up the oil, I've topped up the coolant, and all we've got to do is turn the key and see if it starts. Some mechanics out there know the feeling. I know I've done everything right. I followed the instructions, I've torqued and sealed and everything, but you almost don't want to start it because then nothing can go wrong. So let's give it a start and see if it springs to life. So it may sound a bit rattly to get going because all the oil is drained out of everything. I'm looking at Toby the cameraman and he's nodding. It sounds really good. So we've got a couple of warning lights on the dashboard for no headlights, but that's of course because they're not plugged in. Well, of course, nothing's pouring out the bottom, and that's quite a good sign. The microphones will probably hear this. Sounds like it's tapping, but it's not. What it is the high-pressure fuel pumps that are driven by the inlet cams. But sounding remarkably good. But remember, it did before. When it was cold, it always sounded perfect. So let's just wait a while, and we'll get it up to temp. And if it all sounds good, we'll pop the front bumper on, and we'll take it for a test drive. These Macans are always so easy to fill with coolant because all you've got to do is open this little switch on the side of the airbox and run it for a couple of minutes and all the air bleeds out of it. Unlike other cars, like the 981, without a pressure bleeder, that is a horrendous car to bleed the coolant on. Oh, it's sounding really good. Okay, well that's over 100 degrees oil temp right now, and it sounds excellent. Sounds exactly as it should, which is great news. So I think what we have to do now is start putting the front end back together so we can take it on a test drive. And this is why you always put the headlights in first, because as you can see, this headlight tray is absolutely miles off now. This is always the way when you take the front end off of a Macan, and it's probably one of the most time consuming bits. So I'm going to start with this headlight, get it absolutely perfect, and then we'll move on to the driver's side. So before we head out on a test drive, I'm just going to quickly scan the codes, clear everything, and then of course when we come back from a test drive we can rescan it just to see if all the systems are happy. And there we have it guys, back from the test drive, and it drives absolutely superb. I've just taken it up and given it a check over and put the under trays back on. The AC is recharging, and you'll be happy to know there are no codes stored after we rescanned it. So thank you ever so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe.